Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In our previous demo, we demonstrate on how to use watermarks in Fluent Report. This time, we're going to discuss about Report Builder. So let's start. What is Report Builder? In Fluent Reports, there's also another way in generating a report. Basically, when we create our report, we specify a basic coding line. So let's say here we have a few steps to begin with. So first and foremost, we always take note that this is the main body. Now, given that we have the page header and the detail, so this is how we construct those information. Okay. Now what we're going to do is using Report Builder, instead of doing this individual coding, we can make it into a JSON format. So for today's video, we're going to convert this line of codes into a JSON format and run it using Report Builder. So let's start. Start with, let us create a new file, and we're going to name this as demo10.js. Let's copy this from demo9, and we're going to change this to demo10. Same goes in index.js. Change this also to demo10. Let's let's try this one. And there you go. All right. Let's start with the code. In this section, we're going to discuss it line by line. So we have three parts. First is the main body. Second, we're going to construct the header, and okay, this is the header. And the last one, we're going to construct the detail, this section here. But first, we're going to clear everything from here. Okay, I'm going to leave this data because this is the data we're going to use. Then from here, let's delete this section, including this body here. Let's save that. Next, we're going to import now the report builder. Let's replace this one with report builder. Okay, so this is the declaration for report builder. Now, in this section here, similar to what we did in the PDF kit, we're going to copy the path for this one. So same goes, go to our node modules. Then from here, look for FluentReports. Then under FluentReports should be here in the lib. Then see here. So copy this one here, copy relative path. Okay, so let's apply it in here. Okay, so take note. So in this section here, we're going to add some another extension. Let's say // Okay, that's the first part. Next, let us configure now our report builder. So from here, let us call or assign this by typing let rpt new report builder. Okay, so we have two sections. The first one is the JSON. So I'm going to name that JSON as report data. While the second one, this is the data. Okay, then at the end of this line here, we're going to implement the render. Let's save that. Next, let's begin working with our body. To start with, let's copy this one here. Let's assign in this area. Going to type fonts. Then let's begin with our JSON format. Now here are the basic properties. Let's begin by the name. So from here, let's type the location path. So this is where we export our report. Next, we're going to specify the type. Then from here, let's specify the type, which is report. Then, since we don't have the fonts, we just still need to declare that. Just leave it empty. Okay, should be inside here. Okay, next. Now, there's also a custom properties here. So this is the section where you're going to declare your variables. Okay, since we don't have our variables yet, we're going to just leave this as like this. Okay. Next, we're going to assign a auto print. And we're going to set this to false. Also, this is one thing that we don't have in our previous demo. So we're going to also to include the paper size. Then for this type of size, we're going to set this to letter size. Then another thing is, since this is also not mentioned in our previous demo, we're going to include also the paper orientation. Okay, if you're familiar with orientation, there are two types. So we have the landscape and the portrait. So for this demo, we just implement the portrait. And lastly here, we're going to assign the margins. So in the margins, we have four section. We have the left, going to set this to 40. We have also the top, same, just set it to 40. Next is the right section, same, just set it to 40. And the bottom. Let's save that. Now, there are a few things here. If you are working with JSON, it should be all strings should be with double quotation. While if it is a boolean, just leave as is. Or if it is an empty, just keep it like this one. If it is an array or this object parenthesis here. And if it is a numeric, just implement only by just making a normal numeric entry. That's fine. So let's save that. Let's check that if this body already created. Now to test that, let's clear everything in this section. Okay, so let's start with the review. Notice here, when we try to refresh the page, it did not appear. But if you check the terminal, it says there's no error on your section here. Now, the reason is we only started making the body yet. So we didn't fill up yet the information within that PDF. Now, if you check the export, it's already there. So which means this section is already working. So if you scan this one, see here, there's nothing within. So that's why that's the only or the same thing we're looking in our browser. So let's continue on constructing the entire information. Now that we're done on our report body, let us construct now the page header. Before that, let's head over to our demo9.js. Then let's review our content. Okay, so in here, this is the setup for page header. So I'm going to copy that. Now, inside or this header information, as you recall, this is the information for that section. So we're going to construct one by one this what we call the children within the page header. All right. So to do that, from here, let's apply one more, typing comma and assign the next property, which is the page header. Okay, so this is the section we're going to create our page header. Within our page header, we're going to assign or call this children object. Now in here, we simply call by typing children. Then it should be enclosed with this bracket here. Then this is the section we're going to implement our children within that section. Now, what are those children? So let's say for this one. Okay, so this is the first section. Okay, or rather, we have two here, and this is the second section of that header function. So let's begin first writing this code here. So I'm going to copy this one. Okay, then in our demo.js, okay, you should be inside this section here. Now, for time being, I'm going to paste that in here, or rather a copy, so that we have our reference. Now, to begin constructing our children, let's type first the properties needed. The first one is what we call the text. Okay, so I'm going to copy this text section here. And then, okay, so notice here we have uh, this section. So in Report Builder, this is falls under settings. So I'm going to copy that. Then in here, let's declare or call the property settings. Then let's paste that code line. Now, these are the few things that we need to consider. So first, going to change some of it. For the x, going to change that to absolute x. And same goes for the y, it should be absolute. Okay? It should be absolute y. Okay? And that is, you can keep it as is. So same format, we need to enclose that since that is a string. Okay. Since this is a text entry, make sure you make it a string as well. Okay, so we're done here. Now next is we're going to call also the property function print. Okay, so since this is a print type, I'm going to copy that. Then here, next to our settings, I'm going to call this property type, and then I'm going to print that or apply the print properties. Okay, I'm going to remove this now. Okay, make sure you save everything. Next, let's check our browser. And from here, let us reload our page. And there you go. All right, so that's the first one. Okay, good. So let's minimize this now. Next, let us head over to our demo 9. Okay, so we have the next 9 here. Now in Report Builder, this one, I don't know why I couldn't find these properties. So we can skip that. The only thing we can do now is applying this method. So this is the only source available, so we can use that. We can copy this section here. Okay, for our reference, I'm going to paste that in here. Okay, so what are these section? So still we have this we have the same element. So we have the print section here, similar to what we did in the confidential. So it means that they have the same properties. Now inside this children, we can copy this section. Okay, and then we need to apply a comma, then paste that copy text in this section here. Now let's apply the following. First, going to copy the supplier list. Okay. Then we have another group of properties here. So I'm going to copy this as well. Then it should be, of course, it should be applied inside the settings since these are all the configuration. Okay, so let's apply the double quotation code. Okay, same goes. If it is a string, make sure you indicate the double quote. If it is a number or a boolean, like this one, 13 and true, just repeat as is. So next is this print type. So this is the print section. So we can remove this now. Okay, next is we're going to declare also this new line. So I'm going to copy that. So see, or still part of the children, it should be inside this children here. So you need to apply it, supposedly you need to apply it inside this next section. Now, since this has no defined properties or anything, we can simply type as or apply that by simply indicating the type. Then, of course, okay, so same goes, this is a type of new line. Okay, so we cover that up. Now let's remove this last line here. Okay, so we have now the supplier list and the type new line. So, so that's it. So let's head over to our browser. Let's try one more. Oh, okay, so it's here already. Okay, so let's fix this section here. Okay, so what happened is although we already applied these properties, but another requirement here is we need to set the location. Now to fix that, we're going to copy these two line here. Since the original code don't have the position for X and Y, we can simply set this to 0. Okay, so let's try this one. And there you go. Okay, so let's check what's the next step. Okay, since we're done here, let's head over to demo 9. Okay, we managed now to capture this section here. So what we're going to focus now is this next line. So let's copy that. I'm going to, okay, so head over to demo 10. And from here, let's paste that section in here. Okay, so let's set up that in this section here. So we have some few things here. First, we need to declare the type. Now for our type, this is a bun. Okay, so that's the first one. Next, we're going to apply the settings. Okay, so should be settings. Now for our settings, we only have two code here. So let's apply this to string. Second, this is X. Okay. So since there are missing stuff, so like this one, of course, we definitely need this stuff here. So we're going to apply that in this section, or rather here. Now that, okay, since we already defined the X, so we can copy this one and place it in absolute X here. We can remove this now. Okay, so these are the few things. So just make sure that everything is in here despite of only two code line are defined. Okay, so very important to have the absolute X and the absolute Y. Okay, next. From here, for this section here, we can simply apply the properties of the field. So I'm going to copy this one. Okay, from here, let's call the properties field. Okay, it should be fields, and it should be enclosed with the bracket. Now let's apply one of the line. Okay, so let's arrange this one first. Okay, so what are the few things here? So since we're working with fields right now, so instead of data, we're going to replace this with text. Okay, so let's now apply the double quotation on every code line. The same goes for this one. Okay, so that's the first one. So next, same goes. We can copy now this two line here. Let's let's just add in this section. So we can copy this outline text. Okay, and should be instead of single quote, should be a double quote. Same goes with this section here. Okay, so to be fair, we're going to make it arrange in this manner. Right? So I suppose we already done in this section. So take note. So this is a type of band, and this is the settings of that band, and these are the fields. So let's check our browser. But before that, let's remove this code line, then save. Let's check our browser now. All right. So there's one more here. So this one is overlapping. So let's fix that one. Let's minimize this browser. Okay. So since we already made the format based from the demo 9, so what would I suggest is I'm going to modify the position here. So since these are not reference, so we can also do it similar way, but this time it's the things that which is not present on the original code. We can do a simple twist. So since the arrangement is the problem, we're going to modify that. So in here, so this is the section of that band. Okay. So notice here, we declare the absolute y to 0. Now, if you recall, this supplier list also in the position of 0. So we don't want to overlap those things. So to fix that one, we're going to increase the position for that y-axis. So let's modify here. So instead of 0, I'm going to set this to 30. Okay. That's the reason why those things are in the same path because of these settings here. So they are overlapping. So now that I rearrange the absolute position for y, so let's try now our browser. And there you go. All right, so that's it, guys. Next, let us minimize this browser. Okay. In this section, we're already done with page header. So let's toggle this one. Okay. Next is we're going to head over now to demo 9. Okay. Since we're done with this one, the page header, we're going to focus now on the detail section here. So let's copy this one. I'm going to place that in this section. Okay. Next, let's work now with detail section. So from here, let's add the properties or the property detail. Then we're going to assign this in a bracket here. Then inside these details, we're going to start with the settings. So for that, let's call now the settings. Okay. So notice here, they are all the same with the previous example. Okay. So whenever you're creating a component, so make sure the settings is applied if there's a settings configuration. Okay. So let's work on that. Now for our settings, we have some few things here. So let's say this one. So I'm going to copy this section. Okay, we have the border. Next is the absolute X. Okay, so since we don't have the absolute Y, so we just add the absolute Y to 0. And we're going to apply this double quote here. Okay, done. Okay, next. Next is we're going to define the type for this detail. So for our type, okay, so I think we have some, let's check first everything before we proceed. Okay, so I guess all the brackets are okay. So we can proceed now on the types. So let's call the type properties. Okay, now for the type, you have already the guide. So this is a ban type. So we can copy that. Okay, so let's check why this one has a error. Uh, okay, so since this belongs to one group, so definitely we should emphasize only in one group. Okay. Okay, so since this only belong to one group section, so emphasize should only be on one or the same group as well. Okay, next. Okay, same goes. If you recall the header type, Okay, so similar to this one. So it's just a copy of this section here. So let's copy this section fields. And from here, let's paste that code line. Okay, so better we're going to copy everything on that section, including this one here. Okay, so next, since this is the detail, we're going to replace this content. Now, for this content, let's head over to our data. Okay, so here, let's copy this supplier name. Okay, this should be supplier name. This one should be category, and the other one is points. So let's replace those things. Okay, so and the last one is points. Now, the only difference between the header and the detail is this section here. Instead of text, it should be field. Let's replace everything. Okay, okay, so let's try this example. So head over to your browser, and from here, let's reload our page. And there you go. Okay, overall, we managed to convert the demo 9 example, which is the watermark, to, to a code written in Report Builder. So the only difference is this one so it's written in a JSON format. Okay, but anyway, so feel free to explore and see which conversion or type of code that you want to use. So either these things from here or the normal code that we do from the earlier video. So this is also a good way of dealing with those things. But if you explore more on this type of code, actually they are still the same. The only thing is this one is a little bit cleaner compared to the other one. But it depends on you guys. So feel free to choose in which code you are comfortable with. So that's it. Okay. Once again, if you find this video informative, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And see you guys on the next video series. Cheers!